So now we're going to set up the duct rod pusher for underground rodding. The first thing when you pull up to the job site is put the duct rod pusher in the orientation you would want to rod in. The second part is to put the brakes on. This prevents the rodder from moving out of position and keeps you and the job site safe. The third is to always make sure the battery is not installed when you're setting up the pusher. This is for safety reasons. We never want the machine to turn on without an intention. So the first thing we're going to do is set up the ducts. We have a duct clamp in the front and a duct clamp in the back. In this case, we're going to set up a rigid connection between the duct rod pusher and the handle. We're going to use this duct clamp to clamp this extra piece of duct that we previously had cut into the front of the duct rod pusher, and the other end is going to clamp onto a duct clamp which is connected into the duct inside the handle that we're going to rod. So the first thing to set this up is to connect into the duct clamp into the ground. So we have a standalone 2-inch duct clamp, and we have a 2-inch duct in the ground that we're going to be rodding. We're going to place the duct clamp onto the duct and then place the extra piece that we previously cut into the duct clamp. Using a drill, you'll tighten up the duct clamp. And now we have a rigid connection between this extra sample of duct and the duct in the ground. The next step is we're going to move back over to our duct rod pusher, and we're going to clamp this end of the duct into the duct rod pusher. So we'll unscrew the duct clamp. Here's the duct clamp. When installing the duct into the front duct clamp, ensure that the duct is as close to the wiping insert as possible. This prevents any excess buckling between the end of the duct rod pusher and the duct clamp. Then proceed with tightening down the duct clamp to create a secure connection onto the duct. Now that we have a secure connection on the duct, we're ready to start rodding. At this point, we're all set up. You can now place the battery into the duct rod pusher. So we're going to use our DeWalt FlexVolt battery and insert it into the back of the duct rod pusher. Be sure the battery clicks in place to ensure it's properly seated into the receiver. The next step is to turn on the tool. There's a simple on-off button right on the top of the display panel. You click it and the screen turns on. Always be sure that this emergency stop is lifted up. If this button is depressed, the screen will not turn on, thus preventing power from turning the tool on. So always be sure this is released and then power on the tool. All right. Next, we're going to situate our duct rodder right behind the tool. Release the brake and feed the rod right into the back of the tool. When inserting the rod into the tool, be sure that the pusher itself is loose. To loosen up the tool, turn this counterclockwise. To check that it's loose, you can feel this upper mechanism move around. Then the duct rod will easily slide in. To give it a little of assistance, you can make sure the tool is in forward mode, and using the powered wheels help guide the tool in. Once the rod is all the way in, you can then tighten down the upper assembly until it's snug and firm on the rod. As it's tightening down, you can see these springs depressing. You can see this getting closer. Depress the springs about halfway, and that's sufficient downward tension on or downward force onto the duct rod. Once it's clamped down, you're ready to rod. Simply pull the trigger. And you're rodding. I'm gonna zoom in, you can see the numbers counting up. While rodding, if you hit an obstruction that prevents the machine from continuing to push the rod, you will see the slip error come up on the screen. That slip error goes from 0 to 100% slip. Once you've reached 100% slip, that means the wheels are unable to successfully push the rod because either the duct run has ended or you've hit an obstruction that cannot be broken through. Once you've reached to the end of the rod, simply release the trigger, press the reverse button, and pull the rod back out. As you're pulling the rod back out, the machine will count down back to 0 as the rod is retreating from the duct.